So we're going to go ahead and start putting this chainsaw back together. We went ahead and bought new bearings for it. Those bearings are press fit into this case right here. And so what I'm going to do in order to get these to press fit, I've got my ball joint press set up. And I've also got, so this fits perfectly over this section right here to hold everything in place. And I'm going to take that and set it up in here. Get that attached to my ball joint press here. Now, this should not be very difficult to put together the way I'm doing it. However, I've got it set up so that I can push this together if I need to. Now, this attachment right here, the outside of it is the same size, or almost the same size, as the outside of my bearing. You can see, if you look real close, you can see that it's just slightly smaller than the outside of the bearing that goes with this. Now, what I've got going on right now is I have the bearings in the freezer. So I'm getting them very cold. I'm freezing them. And then I'm going to take this blow dryer and I'm going to heat up this section right here with the blow dryer. Now, I'm not going to show you guys the whole process. Couple of reasons. First reason is you wouldn't be able to hear it very well anyways because of the blow dryer going. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blow dryer and I'm going to turn it on to high. And we'll go ahead and heat this up. And then I'm going to go get the bearing out of the freezer. And I'm going to come in here. Now, when you heat something up, it expands. And when you cool something, it contracts. So what's going to happen is this hole is going to get slightly larger. And the bearing is going to get slightly smaller. So I should just be able to push them together. But I've got this press set up in case I need to apply some pressure to it. So we've heated up this case, and I just pulled this bearing out of the freezer. I've got it in a bag because I don't want to transfer heat from my body to this bearing. I want to try and keep it as cold as I can. And I'm going to set this bearing down in here, and we are going to we'll just press that together just like that. And there, we've got our bearing in our case. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And then the tricky part will come after that. And I'll show you about that when we come back with the, after we've put the other one together. So now that we've got both of our bearings pressed into our cases, what we're going to do next is we're going to set the gasket on this one. I've got the crankshaft in the freezer so that it'll get cold. It may still it's probably going to still have to be pressed together. However, it will simplify things. We're going to go ahead and heat these two bearings a little bit just to get our temperature a little bit warmer than what the temperature of the crankshaft is, and maybe we can push these together pretty easily. So we're going to go ahead and try that. We're going to go ahead and heat these two sides up, and then we'll go get the crankshaft out of the freezer, and we'll set the crankshaft down in this side, and we'll set that side on top of it, and we'll try and push them together and get them at least most of the way together, and then the bolts will go ahead and pull it the rest of the way together. Hopefully we can get it pushed together. I've got a couple of different tools that we'll try and use. I'm going to set up my ball joint press so that we can press this together with it if we need to. And then I've got another tool that I built to separate this case that we're going to have setting here just in case. So we'll come back as soon as we get these warmed up, and we'll try and press that crankshaft in. All right, so we've got our crankshaft here. we know that this end goes to the clutch, which means that it goes down in here. We've set our gasket. Here with our bolt in it. Get a little pressure on that, see if I can get it to push. It doesn't seem to want to very bad, so I'm going to go ahead and set this in here. And we are going to try and press this together a little bit. All right, so we pushed this together a little bit with the ball joint press. And now I've got some of these bolts in here, and I'm going to try and use these bolts to finish pulling this together. Okay. So if I had a deeper Torx bit for my little impact wrench, that would simplify this side of this just a touch, but that's okay. We're in pretty good shape here. Just about there now. You can see we've pretty much pulled this case together. And we have a problem. Which means I'm going to have to pull this back apart a little ways. It looks to me like the crankshaft is pushed off to one side just a little bit. So I'm going to tinker with this a little bit and see if I can get this set where it's supposed to be. All right, so we've got this crankcase put back together on this chainsaw. Now, since this is a two-stroke engine, it uses the crankcase to feed oil and fuel to the engine. And so because of that, we have to be able to maintain pressure here inside of this crankcase. And to do that, we need to have these seals put on the outside so that they will seal up against the crankshaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install these seals. And I'm going to do that by, I've got us a socket here that fits right at the edge of that seal. And so I'll put that socket and start the seal down here on this crankshaft. Okay. And then we're going to run this down. And we'll just tap that seal into place. Now what you want to do with these is make sure that you keep them square. So if they start to get off to one side, they will not go in properly. So I'm going to keep looking at it and make sure that we get it in perfectly square so that we get this crankcase sealed up. I may have to actually get a punch to make sure it's all the way in where it's supposed to be. It looks like it's there now. And then we've got this bigger one that goes here on this other side. And again, we'll just get it started in. And then we'll take our socket and we'll tap it in place till we get it put down here where it's pretty much level with the edge of this bearing, just like that. Now with this one, the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to install this spacer right here. And that spacer actually is what rides against that seal. and keeps this crankcase so that it's sealed up. Now the next thing that we're going to put on, this is the oiler that oils the chain. Now what happens with this oiler sets down in here and it gets oil from the oil reservoir and pumps it right up into this chain so that it comes out right up here, and it feeds the oil to the chain so that the chain lubricates on the bar. Now, how this works is this little piece right here, which is our drive gear, rides against our centrifugal clutch, just like this. And as this centrifugal clutch starts to spin, it spins this on this bushing right here, and the teeth on this will spin the teeth on this oiler, which will pump oil from the reservoir and into the chain. So this is the next piece we're going to put in. We're going to put the oiler in here. It's got an O-ring on it right here that slips down into this tube down in here and seals up into there. And then it's got another piece that slides down into a rubber bushing right here. It actually goes in fairly easy. Now we're going to put a couple of screws in there, get those started, and then I will go get a driver so we can tighten those down. And we're going to tighten these up. We'll come back and make sure that we get everything tight here. Now, all right, so now this is going to go in here. This is the gear that drives the oiler, and it's going to go in here. And then it will make contact with this when this centrifugal clutch goes on. All right. Now, we've got our lock for our bar. And it's going to go in here, if I remember right. Just like this. And that is going to go down just like that. The next thing that we're going to put on is going to be this brake. And what it does is this brake, when we pull on it, if we can get it set in here where it belongs, when we pull on it, it actually squeezes down and locks against this hub right here, which causes so that the chain won't turn. And we do that for safety purposes. All right, so now that we've got our oiler put in place, and I have put our brake band in here, so we're going to take this washer right here, and it goes right over the top of this oil drive gear. And then we're going to take our centrifugal clutch. Now, one thing that you've got to remember with this is it is reverse thread. So you turn it to the left to tighten it instead of turning it to the right to tighten. And we're going to go in here and hold this crankshaft in place. And we'll tighten that brake up. And that will tighten up our centrifugal clutch. Thanks for spending a little time with us here in the man cave. Appreciate you watching our videos. Please hit the like or subscribe buttons, and also leave comments. I will try and respond to your comments, and leave me ideas for videos and I will try and make them happen.